Hey everyone, it's Ron, and you're watching what Ron Plays, and we're here to do our 2023 game review of Stranded: Alien Dawn. It's a planet survival sim without multiplayer mode, unfortunately, but haven't heard anything coming out on that, but I don't know that you really need it. So far, it works really well single player. I think, multiplayer might be interesting if you could maybe set up different bases with different people. I think that might get into some combat between groups. It might be interesting, but maybe something down the line, but not really necessary right now. It is updated regularly. They just had a major update added on March 28th, releasing their sow and sell scenario, and that's kind of cool because it puts in another aspect of the game. The standard one, like we're playing here, like you see on the screen, is survival. You're basically trying to survive. You'll see I didn't do quite so well with Sora up here, since she's kind of dead and only 54% of her shelf life left, so I guess she's gonna rot. She's like laying right down there, and she's supposed to be buried over here, but nobody's really gotten around to it yet, which is kind of disturbing, but what are you gonna do? But there is another scenario coming out, basically less than a month later, on the 25th, called Military Outpost Update. So it looks really cool. You got some bots you can climb inside of and do some base defense, which I think is basically what the scenario is. But it does add a lot more defensive capabilities to the base building. So I think it'll be very cool. The game is developed by Haeminmont Games and published by Frontier Foundry. It was initially released in October of 2022, which isn't too long ago, which means they did a lot more development before they released it in early access than a lot of other games do. There are some other games that they've been in early access forever. But they did a really good job with this one, and they're cranking out content pretty regularly. It's currently, as at the time of publishing now, available on Steam for $29.99, which is a fairly good price for a middle of the road, game like this that actually has a lot of content. It's not too extravagant, it's not like a giant release like some other games. But this is definitely, I think it's a good value for the $29.99. It's scheduled to exit early release on the same day that it releases the Military Outpost update on the 25th of April, so in just a few days. And it's currently available as a digital pre-order on both the major consoles, so both on the PlayStation and the Xbox. If you order it on the PlayStation or Xbox before May 9th of 23, you get additional early adopter content bonuses, so that's kind of cool. So if you're going to do it, you want to make sure you make that jump before May 9th to get those extra bonuses. As a full disclosure, I want to let you know I did pay for my copy of this game. It was not provided for me. Some publishers do provide free games for me to play and to, in their hope review. But this one I purchased myself, and it will have no bearing on the review that I give for the game. So let's go over some of the pros. The pros that I like about this game is the graphics. The graphics and detail are pretty darn good. You zoom in like we do with other games like Farthest Frontier, and we do have quite a bit of detail here with the different items that are on the shelves. It's not like super great, but it's pretty darn cool. You got your fireplace, you got your dartboard. Not sure if the numbers are correct. I know the numbers aren't correct because I think there's only one of each, but it's their own deal, how they work it. But you'll see, especially with the storage, there's quite a bit of detail with the different products you can put up. They're not like ridiculously detailed, but you can see the different items that are stored inside the freezer, so it's not just some generic boxes. That's obviously alien meat. You have dried beef, things like that, so it's pretty good. And you've got some pretty good detail outside. It's not crazy detailed, but you got the blades of grass, you got the different types of flowers and stuff growing. You have random items like energy crystals just laying around, but you got all your crops. You got pretty cool fencing. The people have a bit of detail. They're not like crazy detail, but for what you get, I think it's it's pretty good. Um, I think our animals out here. Steve is sleeping. Steve's looking a little peaked though, but Barfy over here is doing good. See the little Z's coming up showing they're sleeping. They're not actually dead. You got, well, we won't talk about that. But I mean, as far as games like this go, I think the details pretty good. You can zoom in on some of these creatures and check them out. So I definitely think it's a pro because it's pretty detailed. You know, the scenes in the background are pretty cool. The moon's pretty cool. It gets a little more spicy sometimes, a little more active. You get little shooting stars and stuff. So I definitely list it as a pro. The next one is there's a growing modding community for this. So, you know, some of the mods they have give you additional resources, different survivor groups. So it's very cool when you can add, like, you know, 8, 10, 12 more survivors to choose from. I think there's also mods out there that you start out with 8 survivors. So it's pretty cool. I think the mod community definitely makes it more enjoyable. So you have a lot of cool things you can select and add to the game if you want to. There's frequent updates to the game, so I think that's definitely a pro. The Sow and Sell update that they just did, you know, less than a month ago, and then you have, you know, less than a month later their military outpost upgrade, which, you know, you should check it out. It actually looks very cool. If you go to their Steam store page, they're showing some previews of it, and especially like the, you know, almost the cargo loader type robots you can climb inside, and they have cannons on the sides of them. So looks like it's going to be pretty neat. I think the aliens in that scenario will be a lot more aggressive. You'll probably get a lot bigger ones because, you know, for instance, in here when you have the little mites coming towards you, I think a climb-in robot with cannons on the sides a little bit of overkill, but I'm sure it'll be well balanced, and it looks very cool. So I'm looking forward to that. Another pro that I think that kind of surprised me is, you know, you kind of, when you're playing, you get kind of actually a little bit of buy-in to the health of the individual players. You know, I mean, you know, I play Fallout. You know, I played pretty much all the Elder Scrolls you come up with, and, you know, I mean, you have a player, you make the player, you play the individual. Look, somebody's finally gonna bury Sora, thank goodness. But don't necessarily get buy-in on the character. You know, when I'm playing a character on Fallout or you know, even some other games that are like this where you have colonists, you don't necessarily have them named, you know, specifically. So, you know, you got Raka, you got Sora, she got killed by aliens. But Rita, you know, Connor, you kind of want them to succeed. It's pretty interesting. You know, I've played this quite a bit. I played a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different seeds, and it's interesting because, like I said, you're kind of like, well, you know, sure, they get kind of crazy sometimes and they have meltdowns, but I don't mean like that. I mean, like, you know, you want to make sure they have individual rooms, and it's kind of weird because obviously you need happiness. Did Connor die? What did Connor die from? I wasn't paying attention, but apparently Connor died, so we'll have to bury Connor. We'll bury Connor over by Sora over here. There we go. I'm not actually playing at the moment. I'm just reviewing, so I would have paid a little bit closer attention to Connor to see what happened, but he just destroyed the shooting target, which is cool. But anyway, you know, I actually, you know, during the game, you get a little bit of buy-in. You know, I'll look at that and I'll be like, well, you know, I want Jack to be all right. You know, Rita, you want to make sure that she has her own room so she can sleep, because they do get a bonus for not disturbing each other and for having their own small room. So it's interesting. You know, you see, you just got a small bedroom +3 for Jack. it was kind of unexpected when I started playing the game, because you know, at the beginning you pick your survivors to begin with, so you're trying to pick a good group, making sure that they work well together, make sure that they have all the different bases covered, and you know, like I said, you just get some interesting buy-in. I find it a very good part of this game. Another pro is details like air conditioning and heating, electrical circuits. You know, it really kind of gets you into playing the game as far as the construction part of it. You know, like these laser cannons, you can see they're all pointed at the sky. It's because they're currently on control circuit 2. And the other thing that's on control circuit 2 is this motion detector. So, you know, you look at the range of the motion detector, and basically what happens is if anything steps within this circle that's enemy, basically in the traps, then it activates, because it's on active circuit 2, it'll activate these laser cannons, and then they'll start pulling power. So they don't start actually drawing power. Same with these lights. These lights are on circuit 2, so these two floodlights don't come on until this motion sensor is tripped. So basically when some, you know, aggressive animal or creature comes in and hits one of these traps, these floodlights go on, which help these aim better. The forward laser cannons flop down, they start firing. So, you know, all that happens. So you have a lot more of a buy-in when you're trying to create this stuff, because you know, you can use ingenuity to make things work differently. These floodlights that are all around the outside, the perimeter of my building, they're all controlled by the day-night sensor, so they only come on at night. That's control circuit 1. So you have all these floodlights are on control circuit 1. So it's neat, you know. You kind of get a base building game along with it too, you know. But you got to make sure that you're taking care of your people and not like letting them all die randomly, like apparently I'm doing. So now I'm back to the original. Well, I think, are those the original 4? No, because Connor was one of the original 4. So Simon I found along the way. So. But, you know, like I said, you know, you start getting this attachment to the individuals. That's why, you know, much to my chagrin, I named all of my animals. So as they're having more animals, having like, didn't name that animal yet. Apparently, they just had another baby. So I guess we'll name this one Scruffy. So you can rename each of your animals so you get a little bit more buy-in. So I've got Rocket the dog over here, a boxer. I'm hoping to find another one so you can start breeding them, and once these are trained past level 5, you can start drafting them to help an attack. So that's pretty interesting. So I mean, that's, you know, you get a lot of buy-in both from the people and from the construction, I think. Another pro is the happiness depth. It makes sense, you know. I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but there's easy adjustments to make. You know, you can give them their own room and they get I think +5 or +3. If they don't get woken up, they get a little plus. If you see like they just got a food variety bonus, a farming +18 because they're just got done farming. So I mean, there's lots of things that can make them more happy. You know, making these little statues down here, and they'll go check them out every once in a while. That makes them happy. Being able to do target practice relieves stress. Kicking this punching pole or punching it relieves stress. So there's a lot of different things with food variety, you know, warmth, make sure they have the right clothing. You know, I've got the musical instruments in here to have them play. You'll see there's a hand pan to play. Here there's a didgeridoo, you know. So I mean, they've got things that they can do. So it's, you know, it's interesting. Remembering the dead. What's going on there? Fire of the Dead, of course, we'll go ahead. So they'll have little celebrations like that you always want to say yes to. So they're going to honor the dead. They have like New Year's Day, things like that. So there's just all kinds of things you can do. And there's some straightforward activities that you can create for them, like the dartboard that was over there that cheers them up. You can also have like, you can also ferment wine, you can ferment beer. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. My neutrals in the game, you know, it doesn't really make it better or worse, but there's a lot of replayability. You have actual seeds that you can put in, so it's kind of cool because you can go online. You can use other people's seeds if you want to try and play the same map. So the replayability is good. I don't think it improves the game at all. It doesn't make it any worse because most games now have replayability, especially with random maps and random seeds and things like that. So, but it's a good thing to have, obviously. Another neutral, I think, is the manageable production streams. They're not too in depth. Basically, you get wheat, which you're growing over here. You grow some wheat, and you can make beer. You have cloth blossom. You collect it. You have cloth. But that's actually straight up cloth. And then cloth you can directly make into clothing. You don't have to make cloth bring it, or take the cloth blossom and bring it in and put it into like a weaving machine and have the weaving machine make it into cloth, and the cloth you have to age or dry or something to make it into leather, and then leather can finally be made into clothing. It's not like that, and that's really a relief, to tell you the truth. A lot of these things, like you have your buttermelon. Your buttermelon you can make directly into like veggie soup. Any of these meats in here, like the insect meat, you can make directly into meat soup, and it tells you right there, a group includes, and it shows you what kind of meats you can use. Grain porridge, you can take grain that you harvest and make it directly into porridge. So there's a lot of very direct products that you can make, which I really like in this game. It doesn't make it easy, because you still have to go out and you have to observe these things, you have to grow them, you have to have a good planter. Like Rita, she's 10 farming, she's maxed out, so she cranks it out. She can do harvesting really fast, she can do planting really fast. You can plant silicon leaves, and it goes directly to silicone, and then you can make things with silicone. So I like that the production threads are not too complicated. That's nice. It's still a neutral, because I don't think it makes the game better, because a lot of people like complicated production threads, but so I think it's a neutral. It's a nice thing that they did that. Another neutral, I think, is the decent number of animals out here. You have, like, I have my olfin that I've tamed, but you have the glutches. You have a lot of flying insects. You have the dracas over here. Plus you have a lot of fauna to look at. So you can observe the broadleaf bush, so you can grow them. I've already observed the buttermelon. That allowed me to grow them. You want to make sure you get the grain cob right away and grow them, because that'll help you get things like antibiotics. There's smoke leaves, I think, around here somewhere. Like the berry plant I haven't observed yet. There's smoke leaves I haven't observed yet. I just haven't gotten around to it. You can observe the trees, so you can grow more trees. So I think it's cool. You have, they're not hummingbirds. They're called something else, but they're flying around. I haven't really observed them, to tell you the truth. There's one flying up there. Oh, I can't get them. If I highlight the whole thing, I can get them. Yeah, humming flies. So I could observe humming flies. You can observe manures. You can use it for fertilizing your crops. So all these things I can observe if I want to. So it's pretty cool. I think there's a wide enough variety. They don't get too carried away, but it's interesting, so it makes it a neutral because it gives you something to do. It doesn't make it great because there's not like a million things to look at, but like I said, I think that's a good neutral. And another one is the technology tree. I think the technology tree, when you look up here, there's not a lot of them that are just dependent on others. It's pretty straightforward. You get a lot of them at the beginning. The one thing that kind of well, we'll go into that later. But I think the technology tree is very straightforward. It tells you exactly what it's going to unlock. It tells you when you're getting ready to research them. Like this one says 1 day max, so it does tell you the max amount of time it can take you to research these. Obviously, if the person's better at researching, it's a better time or a lower time. So it's pretty interesting, and it's very straightforward. Your cooking is the same way. If you go to our cooking bench, it's our cooking stove. It's straightforward. You want to cook these things, okay? You just put in veggie soup and you put how many you want to cook. It will tell you how many it'll take to make them. So my buttermelon pies are done. I have no one at cooking 3 because now I have people die, unfortunately, so I can't make that anymore. But you'll see meat soup. You know, it tells me I need 10 meat of any type, and it'll come out with 2 soup. So that may seem like kind of a rip-off, but the problem is that you'll run into is you'll start running out of room to store a lot of this stuff. So taking 10 and basically cooking it down to 2 is actually a good thing later on. You'll find out. So, but it's very straightforward. You know, like baking bread. You know, what do I need? I need, you know, I need grain and I need oil and fats. You know, so I mean, oil and fats, pretty straightforward. You're just boiling down like insect meat. So, you know, it's not like you have to go and make this and make this and make this to make that. So, again, you know, it's pretty straightforward. Crafting is very straightforward. You know, you go to crafting, you go to like your tailor bench, you want to sew a shirt. I want to sew a t-shirt. You know, it tells me I just need 10 fabrics. And that's it. What kind of fabrics can I use? Cloth or synthetic textiles? So cloth comes directly from my cloth blossom. I don't have to process it at all. So basically, as I'm harvesting these, which now if you look up here, I've got 6,410. Good grief. You know, I can make them directly into shirts. You know, I can come over here and I can sew these tops. I can make it into a t-shirt. I can make them into a shirt. You'll see it just needs 20 fabrics. A sweater, I need 30 fabrics. So I mean, all these things I can just make directly into jackets, sweaters, shirts, and t-shirts. I don't have to go through a bunch of other nonsense. You know, so it takes 40 fabrics and leathers. So I mean, it's really nice that they're simple. You know, does it make the game like a whole lot better? No, I think it's a neutral, but it is nice that it's there. Now for the cons, there are a few cons of the game. The building can be a little bit glitchy. Sometimes it doesn't line up quite right. Things don't turn out quite the way you expect them to. For instance, you'll see this one. The power line basically goes right through the building. If I put the roof on, you'll see it actually cuts through the building. So some things can be a little glitchy. I'll see animals, you know, where I got these things like connected side by side. Animals, sometimes I've saw them pop through there. So, you know, things can be a little weird. Sometimes when you set up these defenses, at least in my experience, you know, this motion sensor goes out to the outside traps, but sometimes, I mean, creatures will get in here almost, and the turrets won't have activated yet. So, I mean, it takes a little bit experimenting. It seems like some of the objects that are working with one another, like this, you know, this range circle isn't always accurate. But other than that, you know, I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's a deal breaker at all. Sometimes when you're deleting things, you have to really make sure that you know, when you're clicked on something, you're selecting the wooden wall. It's selecting the wooden wall, but you can barely see it. It looks weird. You don't know if it's the right thing, so you have to be careful of what you're selecting. You know, that's selecting the wood floor, not the wall. So you have to go up here, like, to select the wall. Or actually, see, it selected the room. So you gotta be so careful when you're doing things. So this is the wall. So I could do deconstruct and they'll take out this piece of the wall. But now when they take out the piece of the wall, they'll also take out the piece of the roof. Is it not showing me my roof now? No, it doesn't want to show me. Maybe because I have it selected. There we go. So if I take out this piece of wall, it'll actually take out that piece of roof. So I mean, that's not glitchy, but it you know, it's things you just got to be careful of. But there are other things, like you see the power lines cut through the building are kind of glitchy. So you have to be very careful where you're placing things. You know, you'll see that, like that dartboard right there seems like it's floating in the air, but it's not, because it's just not showing me the walls. So you can like go into the building, you know, and you can zoom in real close, and you can zoom over there and try and see what's going on. I thought before I could turn on the roof and still be inside the building. Yeah, so you can go around and you can see and make sure that, hey, you know, is that actually on the wall? And it is. See, now I'm outside again, so it's on the wall. Hey, there we go. So yeah, it you know, trying to get around in here is a little glitchy. It keeps wanting to like go you to the outside. But, you know, it's just a little bit of getting used to. But just trust me, be very careful. With these walls, it's good to like build them from above, because you'll find out that if you try and build them from this angle, You start a wall and it'll actually be over one row over, and you'll start to build it, and you'll be like, hey, that didn't turn out quite right. When you're building gates, the gates are open by default. You have to be careful that the big part of the gate is touching the wall, because sometimes you'll have them where the sides of the gate are sticking out, and when you close it, it actually is closing out here. It's not closing here. So just it's just things you got to be careful of. You think the gates would snap, but they don't. So they allow you to kind of put them in a weird spot. Another kind of the game is I really don't like the fact that you can't build multi-story buildings. I know there's videos, if you go to like Steam, where they say multi-story, and they're not. They're multi-level. So all they're doing is making like half the building taller than the other half of the building. So you put little steps on the inside to get from one level to the other. It's not allowing you to actually put another second story on the building, which I think is terribly annoying, especially when, if you come down here and you go to housing, you go to walls, you can build carbon walls, for gosh sakes. You can't tell me that the carbon or the concrete can't handle a second story. So that's one thing I really hope they fix about this game. Another thing is if I take this roof off and I put a carbon roof on, it's flat. And why on earth would I not be able to put a turret on top of a flat roof? It annoys me to no end that you can't put things on top of a flat roof. It drives me nuts. I really think you should be able to do that. To me, it would completely change the way I design camps, because I wouldn't have to have these huge walls out there. I mean, your building could actually be part of the wall, which would be nice. And you could just put the turrets on top of the buildings, put them on four corners, for instance. I mean, you could do a lot of different things. It's not necessarily a deal breaker, but it's really annoying that, I've got all this technology, I can do all these amazing things, but I can't put things on a flat roof. Just doesn't make any sense to me at all. Another thing that can be kind of glitchy is in assignments. They don't always do them in order. I don't like doing simple priorities. I like doing the advanced ones, so you can actually put numeric values to them. But like I've had times when, like, heal, I've got them set at 1. I've got all my heals set at 1, so that way, in theory, that's the absolute first thing you do. So, and that's important, because if you have everybody but one person get hurt, and that one person's got a 9 farming, and you've got, in the activities list, you've got, the healing at 6, or it can't be at 6, it's only 1 through 5. But let's say you got healing at 3, but farming is at 1. They'll actually go out and go farming while everybody's laying in here dying and bleeding out. So you want to put these as 1, but, I mean, it's I've still seen them in this game do other things, like they'll eat. I've got 3 people bleeding, and my best healer is over here not hurt, and let me go eat some meat first. I'll play my hand pan, and it's like, oh my gosh, just get over there and heal. It's your number one thing. Why aren't you doing that? So that can get a little bit frustrating, I'm not gonna lie, but it's not horrible. And back to happiness a little bit. It's like meltdowns. The one thing I don't like about the happiness, and I know I mentioned earlier that it was actually a pro, because it was very simple to mitigate things. It's not like you have to do secret things. If they all have their own room, they're going to get +3. If they don't disturb each other, they're not going to get a negative. But one thing that bothers me is it's like very up and down. I think one of the cons is just the extreme range of their happiness. It's almost to the point, it's making kind of joke about it, but I mean, they could stub their toe and all of a sudden they go from 87% happiness down to 20% happiness. And I mean, I understand you're marooned on a planet. You're probably pretty ticked off from the beginning, as like a core, but you'll see some of them can get up close to like 100%. He's at 70%. He's at 66. He's at 52. Or she's at 52. And you'll see that it actually says that it's going to go up. But look, like just then, boom, all of a sudden it's going up to 100. So you'll see that arrow to the right. That's where the happiness is headed. So provided nothing negative happens, she's going to go all the way up to like, what's that, like 97, 98% happiness. But she can go out here and get a little warm, and that'll just go shooting all the way down to like 30%. It's like, I think it reacts like way too much. On the counter side of that, when the person goes and eats, sees a variety of food, they get boom +9. So I mean, you can't say you like getting the +9, but you don't like getting the -30 for getting overheated. So it's kind of tough. Everybody will be doing great, then all of a sudden, boom, so and so is ready to melt down. It's like, what the heck happened? I think that could be worked on to mellow that out a little bit and smooth that out. I mean, I understand they're upset by being marooned, but if you're upset at being marooned, then that arrow should never be all the way up at 100%, right? So obviously that isn't like an automatic 20% not sadness lurking in the background. But you'll see, look, her arrow just dropped like to 80%. So what happened? She's just out there harvesting. Maybe she's getting a little crabby from working so hard, I guess. But okay, before we blink, that could go down to like 40%. So I think it's just it moves a little too much in my personal opinion. My last con, I think, is the technology tree. I said it was as a neutral because it was pretty easy, but one thing I don't like is that some things don't show up sometimes. I've been playing other seeds, for instance, where I've looked and one of the things that doesn't show up that's really annoying is the carbon wind turbines. They just work so much better than the standard turbines. Like, I mean, light years better. You see, I've got 4 of them. In one of my other threads, I've got like 15 of the regular turbines, these wind turbines. But that's because I never got the opportunity to research carbon wind turbines. And I don't know if it's random. I haven't gone out to look at any videos, see if anybody knows about it. I'm not that concerned about it. But it's pretty annoying because if it's just random, why, you're kind of starting a game and you're being hindered right from the very beginning, because they make a huge difference. I mean, a huge difference. These graphene solar panels, they actually turn and follow the sun, so they pull in a lot more power than your regular panels. This, I think, you get when you research alien language, so you have to do expeditions. So I think you get that all the time. I don't know if I've played enough to see if they're ever excluded, but I know for a fact that carbon windmills are. So that gets pretty annoying when you're playing a game and you never get those. But I mean, overall, in general, I think the game is really well done. Some people like compare it to other games. I've heard, I think, RimWorld come up, that it's a 3D RimWorld. I mean, that's fine. I'm rating the game standalone. I don't want to compare it to other games. If anything, I'll compare it to, like I mentioned, Farthest Frontier earlier, but that was just because of details and things like that. It's pretty slick. I think, the expedition idea is really cool, being able to, send your people off and look at this, what's that tachyon source? Well, let's go find out. And, he'll get going. You'll see Jack. It can speed it up quite a bit. You'll see Jack run out there. It's already been fueled up. It's hot anyways, so see sweltering hot -18, ravenously hungry -18. And he's supposed to be going on an expedition, and he's like running out like in the middle of the field and like running back. So who knows what he's doing? 2 people are getting heat stroke. He's got a lot of negatives. So you'll see it like shooting up now. Like I don't know why it's happening. It's just going through the roof. That's just, look at Rock. Rock is like, it's going down to 0 happiness. So, who knows? He's put on a hat. He's changing his shoes, changing his pants. He was probably still wearing thermo stuff. I don't know. He's running out in the field there, but you'll see Rita's drunk. She's unrelaxed. She's hungry. So, there's just so many things. It's just everything. Just got a +18 for decoration. It's just all over the place. But you know what? To be honest, I really enjoy this game. I really like it a lot. I have had some issues with it freezing up my computer. I've got a pretty beefy machine. I run this through Steam, obviously, and I rarely have any problems with any other games. So I hope they work on that a little bit. Um, it could be like the synchronization with my recording software might be having an issue with it. I'm not sure, but in general, I really like this game. I like the balance. You don't have to spend so much time worrying about your production threads. Power is plentiful if you get your carbon windmills. Um, it's fairly easy to store things. You can say, hey, don't store this stuff here, and you can select what you want to allow to store and what not. I don't want raw food sitting out here when I have freezers, so I turn them off. So you do have detail, and when you're looking at this game, it can get kind of intimidating. You think, man, you're going to just have to micromanage the heck out of everything, but you really don't. That's what I like. You've got this building aspect of things where you've got the cool motion sensors, because when you've got creatures, they'll go to the first hole they find. They'll go to the hole in the fence, so they're always going to filter through here. You have to be careful because the range on this thing goes outside, but they can't hit anything out there, because once these start firing, then the animals will be attracted to that. So if they're out here, they'll start trying to chew their way through the wall if they get hit. So that's why you don't want them activated until this guy goes on, because they're coming through the breach. Because then once they're in this area, once the cannons start firing at them, the laser turrets, then they want to get to the laser turrets. So they just keep, basically like lemmings, just running into these traps. So it's cool. You can design different traps. You can produce different things that you want to produce. Keep all of your building materials outside. And a lot of these things, once you get them in place, they just run. To be honest, I could, I think Sora got killed because I sent her like way down there to get that the salvage down there. And when I did that, I got an attack. So she was salvaging down here. I got an attack from a bunch of creatures, and unfortunately, she was running back like she was ordered to, and like 4 or 5 got a hold of her, and she was down there getting munched on, and I wasn't paying attention, and I couldn't send people down there quick enough to save her. And I think they did get her in bed, and they did try to heal her, but she had so many bites, and she was bleeding so bad they just couldn't save her. So it was my own fault, but it was an interesting aspect of the game. I learned from it. So I guess in the end, I would give this game a solid 8.5 out of 10. I really would. I know 8.5 is a pretty darn good score, but I think it deserves that. The only thing I think that could really improve the game, and maybe I'll change my mind once the military outpost update comes out. But I don't know that that'll affect my opinion of the game overall. It'll just, I think it'll solidify that 8.5. The one thing I wish you could do in this game is like making outposts. I do notice that when the survivors get farther away from home, they get more upset, and that's a shame, because basically around my camp I've salvaged pretty much everything I could salvage. Where down here is a piece, and that's getting a little bit far. But if I go down here, I've got another nest. A nest is where you can get nanotubes, carbon nanotubes directly from these nests. But I've also got one piece of spaceship debris, another big piece over there. I've got another piece right here. I've got that one up the hill a little bit. So what I would like to do, I've got another big chunk. Oop, let me see. Liquid fuel. Yeah, I grabbed some liquid fuel. But you'll see, there's another chunk over there. There's another chunk over there. What I'd really like to do is maybe build like a little sub camp right here. Defeat these guys, because the problem is my people, because the speed at which they walk to get from all the way up there, they can't even make it down here before they have to start going back to go to sleep. So, I can't even label any of them. So the problem is what if I put like a little sub camp down here? I'm not even sure I could do that. I'm probably gonna try, but I kind of have a feeling that more crabby because they're too far away from their bed. You know, do I have to move their beds down here? And then the problem is I have two camps. I have one camp here with two people, one camp up there with two people, all my food's up there, you know, and the most you can have is 8. So the best I can do is 4 up there and 4 down here. So I'd really like the ability to make an outpost. I think if you could make an outpost and they wouldn't get crabby, you know, if I could go down there and build like a little house, you know, but the thing is, I wouldn't want creatures attacking it. If creatures attack it, you know, I don't want to build one of these whole things down there. But maybe something with a little storage, you know, that I could run from the stuff from down there, all the stuff I scavenge, and run it up here. That'd be great. I just don't think you could do it, but I think that would, to me, that could, you know, maybe make it a 9, because it would be a big mechanic of the game that I think would help a lot. Because at this stage, I can only get out so far to scavenge things because they can't even run that far. So I think that would make it interesting. But I do give this game a solid 8.5, and at $29.99 price point, I would definitely recommend it. Because I think just besides the replayability of the map seeds that you have, I also think there's a lot of replayability with the different survivors you can choose, because you have like maybe 30 to choose from. Maybe tweak them a little bit, you know, or give the players the ability to tweak them a little bit, because unfortunately I think what happens is you end up starting to say, hey, I just like these four work together, and you just keep using these same 4 and 4 over and over and over again. I don't think too many people will be too excited about just trying to make the game more difficult for themselves. I think if you have to make the game more difficult for yourself to enjoy it, I think it means the game is not as good as it could be, in my opinion. So I guess that's it. You know, that's the rating I give it. I give it a solid 8.5. I'm really excited to see the military outpost come out in a few days. That'll be really neat because, you know, like I said, you get a lot more defensive capabilities. You get those robots you get to climb inside of, so I think that'll be pretty cool. You'll probably have to create like power cells for them, things like that. So I think it'll be interesting, and I really appreciate the creators of the games to keep coming out with more and more updates to the game. I think it's really cool. Ever since October, they've come out with at least one a month, which is, you know, at least updates to add more things. But, you know, like the sow and sell and now the military outpost, I mean, those are whole new scenarios, whole new ways to play the game. So I think it's pretty cool, and it's very, very good to their customers to keep doing those updates. So I hope you enjoyed the game review, and if you like it, please like the video. It helps in the algorithm, and subscribe to the channel and help the channel grow, and click that notification bell to be notified of our future videos. Keep in mind, I think you can subscribe to individual playlists, so I will be adding this game not only to the Stranded Alien Dawn playlist, because we've been putting out videos on that game, but I'll also be assigning it to my game review playlist, so you could just subscribe to that if you want to, so you'll only be notified of those videos. So thanks again for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I'm Ron, and you're watching Ron Plays.